Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to do some detective work. We're cracking the case of a specific Chevrolet error code, P21AB. Now, if this code has popped up on your scanner, you're in the right place. Stick around, because we are about to break down exactly what it means and what to do about it. Ah, there it is, that little glowing engine symbol on your dashboard. You know, it's kind of the universal sign for an instant headache, right? It just sits there glowing, telling you that your car is trying to say something. It's the beginning of a mystery we've got to solve. And this time, the message is super specific. It's not just a feeling, it's a direct clue. Your car is handing you a diagnostic trouble code, P21AB. This right here, this is our starting point. This is the big piece of evidence we need to kick off our investigation. Okay, so let's get right into it. First things first, we gotta learn the language. What in the world is your Chevy actually trying to tell you when it throws a P21MB code? Let's decode this thing. I know, that sounds like a whole lot of technical jargon, but let's just break it down. Reductant is just a fancy word for diesel exhaust fluid, or DEF, the stuff that helps cut down on emissions. So the reductant level sensor is, you guessed it, the little guy that measures how much DEF is in the tank. All this code really means is that your car's main computer is seeing a voltage from that sensor that's way higher than it should be. Simple as that. Now, that high voltage reading, it's not just some abstract electrical thing happening under the hood. It has real-world consequences you can actually feel when you're driving. You might suddenly notice you're burning through fuel faster, or the truck feels sluggish and doesn't accelerate like it used to. Maybe the engine just feels rough or even starts misfiring. So this code is a direct link to a performance problem. All right, so now we know what the code is saying and what it feels like from behind the wheel. So let's put on our detective hats. It's time to investigate the usual suspects, the most common things that cause a P21AB code to show up. So here's our case file, laying out the most likely culprits. First, we check for accomplices. Any other codes hanging around that might point to a bigger issue. But honestly, most of the time, the problem is right there in the sensor's circuit. We're usually hunting for one of two things. Either a total break in the wire, which is called an open circuit, or something called a short to voltage, which means the wire is getting zapped with extra electricity from somewhere else. Let's talk about what those actually mean. So what's the difference here? It's actually pretty simple when you think about it. An open circuit is literally just a break in the wire. The best analogy is an open drawbridge. The signal just can't get from one side to the other. A short to voltage, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. It's like an illegal detour where electricity jumps from another wire over to our sensor wire, causing that high voltage reading we talked about. Getting this difference is absolutely key to figuring this out. So we've got our list of suspects, but how do we actually prove which one is guilty? Well, that's where our diagnostic toolkit comes into play. Let's walk through the exact steps you or your mechanic would take to get to the bottom of this. See, the whole diagnostic process is really just a logical path of elimination. You always start with the easiest thing first. Scan for any other codes that might give you some extra clues. Then, it's time to get your hands dirty. You physically inspect the wiring, looking for any obvious damage, chafed wires, corrosion, breaks. If all the wiring looks good, then you take a closer look at the sensor itself before you make the call to replace anything. Okay, we have our plan of attack. Now, let's look at a couple of pro tips, some expert clues, if you will. These are resources that can help us officially crack this case and find the solution a whole lot faster. These numbers and letters you're seeing, these are technical service bulletins, or TSBs. Think of them like cheat sheets sent directly from Chevrolet to their technicians. If tons of people are having the exact same issue, Chevy might release a TSB with specific repair tips. For example, a bulletin for this code might say, hey, check this specific spot on the wiring harness because we know it likes to rub through right there. Checking for TSBs can literally save a mechanic hours of guesswork. It's a huge shortcut. And with that, case closed. The big takeaway here is that an error code isn't a dead end. It's actually the opposite. It's the start of a logical investigation. Once you understand what the code means, you know the common causes, and you follow a clear plan, you go from being a victim of the problem to being in total control of the solution. And really, this is why we do all this. It's not just about making a little light on the dashboard go away. It's about knowing your vehicle well enough to make sure that engine is running exactly the way it was designed to, smoothly and efficiently. That's the real win when you crack any code. So that brings us to the end. We've cracked the P21AB code, but your car is an incredibly complex machine and it's always communicating. The real question is, are you listening? Being proactive and staying on top of things is the absolute best way to keep these little mysteries to a minimum. Thanks for joining me on this one.